The invitation to stillness. Before the sun stretches her golden arms across the sky, before the birds lift their voices in chorus, before the clamor of the world dares to disturb the silence, there is a moment. A hush. A sacred stillness that wraps the earth in the breath of the divine. It is here, right here, in the quiet before the chaos, that God speaks. Not in thunder, not in spectacle, not in the shout of fire or the roar of storm, but in the whisper. The holy hush, the breath of eternity touching time. Child, you must listen. The whisper that comes with the dawn. There is a language only silence can understand, and there is a voice that only stillness can hear. It is the voice of God, drifting on the winds of dawn, riding the mist like a lover's scent on the air. He speaks when the stars are just packing away their glow, when the velvet black of night gives way to a quiet gray, when the world hasn't yet put on her noise. He comes like the dew, unannounced, unforced, yet undeniable. He doesn't compete with the volume of the world. He waits for stillness, because God speaks in the kind of quiet that most folk never enter. But when you do, oh, when you do, it will change your life. The sound of love, not performance. God does not come to perform. He is not in need of applause. He is not a showman. He is a father, a potter, a poet. He comes like someone who knows you, not the you pretend to be, the real you, the you with trembling hands and unanswered prayers, the you with dreams still stuck to your eyelashes and fears still knotted in your chest. He speaks to your spirit before your body moves, before your mind gets cluttered, before the world teaches you to forget who you are. The morning is not just a moment. It is a meeting, an appointment with grace, a rendezvous with peace. The voice that calls you beloved. Some people look for signs. They want thunder. They want burning bushes. They want parting seas. But God has been speaking all along. In the sigh of the wind through your curtains, in the warmth of sunlight on your face, in that verse you've read 100 times, but today it echoes like it was written just for you. He speaks not always in words, but always in love, and oh, how tender is his morning voice, like peace that enters the room before sound, like the knowing that says, even when your bank account trembles, he provides. Even when the doctor gives hard news, he is healer. Even when the world overwhelms you, he is anchor. That's the power of hearing him in the morning. Even lover chair, you walk different, you speak softer, you love deeper because you've been with the Lord. Heaven's agenda versus earth's demands. We live in a world that wakes up shouting. Alarms scream, notifications ping, voices from every corner of your life begin demanding a piece of your soul. Emails that can't wait, schedules that suffocate, expectations that rise before the sun does. And if you're not careful, you'll mistake that noise for purpose. You'll start to believe that busyness means blessing, that hustle equals holiness, that being overextended is a badge of honor. But beloved, that's not the rhythm of heaven. Heaven does not rush. Heaven does not race. Heaven walks in step with the Spirit. The world wants your hustle. Heaven wants your heart. The world wants productivity. Heaven wants presence. The world wants more from you. Heaven wants to pour more into you. You see, there's a difference between movement and alignment. You can move fast and be out of step with God. You can accomplish much and still be far from the peace you were promised, because there is no substitute for starting with God. That's why the morning is so sacred. Before the day gets loud, before the voices of doubt and distraction take the stage, God whispers. He whispers not what the world demands, but what your soul needs. He says, "You are mine. You are not alone. You don't have to earn what I've already given." And when you hear that before you hear anything else, it changes the way you walk. You walk with confidence, not comparison. You walk with clarity, not confusion. You walk with calling, not chaos. Because when you start your day with God, you let heaven set the agenda. And heaven's agenda is not about being busy. It's about being fruitful. Fruitfulness doesn't always look like finished checklists or crowded calendars. Sometimes it looks like kindness in traffic. Sometimes it looks like saying no to one more meeting so you can say yes to rest. Sometimes it looks like silence instead of scrolling, prayer instead of pressure, worship instead of worry. The world claps for how much you do, but heaven crowns you for who you become. So, pause. Don't let the world name your worth. Let God define your day. Begin not with headlines, but with holy lines from His Word. Begin not with anxiety, but with adoration. Begin not with pressure, but with presence. For the first voice you hear in the morning. So take your hands off the wheel for a moment. Take your eyes off the clock. You don't have to outrun the world. You just need to walk with God. Because if you walk with Him, He'll lead you to places your hustle never could. He'll take you from striving to abiding, from rushing to resting, from burning out to burning bright. And isn't that what you really want? To be lit from within, to shine not from exhaustion, but from encounter? Then slow down. Tune your ears to heaven's frequency and let God order your day before the world tries to disorder your soul. Heaven has an agenda for your life today, and it starts with stillness. When silence is the language. What do you do when heaven goes quiet? When you kneel, whispering prayers into the morning stillness and nothing stirs? When you lift your hands in the dark, but no breeze of divine response brushes your soul? What then? Ah, child, you must understand something sacred. Silence is not the absence of God. Silence is the presence of mystery. God speaks, yes, but He also waits. He watches. He works in the quiet. Not every holy thing comes with thunder. Some of His deepest work is done in the hush. You see, the teacher is always silent during the test. And your Father, He is not testing to trap you. He's testing to trust you. When He is silent, He is not far. He is near in another way. He's letting faith stretch its wings. He's letting the roots of your trust grow deeper than your feelings. Because if your faith only stands when God is loud, it's not faith, it's comfort. But when your faith holds firm in the quiet, that's when mountains move. Silence, my beloved, is not a punishment. It's a purification. It strips away the noise. It reveals what's real. It teaches you to stop leaning on emotion and start standing on truth. And let me tell you something gentle and true. Sometimes God already spoke, and we didn't listen. So He grows quiet, not in anger, but in mercy, to let the last word settle, to let conviction grow, to let remembrance rise like incense. He's not ignoring you, He's inviting you. Deeper, slower, truer. So do not despise the silence. Do not run from it or try to fill it with noise. Sit with it. Sit with your questions. Sit with your ache. Sit with your longing. And in that stillness, you'll start to hear what noise could never teach. You'll hear the sound of your own soul. You'll hear the echo of old promises still true. You'll hear creation speaking without words, the trees swaying in obedience, the sun rising in perfect order, the sparrow singing without. The voice of God will return. And oh, when he speaks again, it won't be small. It will shake you in all the right places. It will soften you where you were hard. It will lift you where you sank. And it will remind you, he was never gone. He was growing you in the silence. The power of a slow morning. There is a quiet power in the slow morning. Not just the kind of slow that rolls over and pulls the covers back up. No, this is sacred slow, intentional slow. The kind of slow that says, I will not rush past God to reach my goals, because what is a day filled with motion if your soul has not moved with heaven? The world will try to rush you from the moment your feet touch the floor. There are emails waiting, messages buzzing, deadlines whispering your name before you even brush your teeth. But child, you must learn to guard your mornings like they are altars, because they are. The morning is holy ground. It is where you lay your thoughts before the Father, before the world tries to shape them. It is where your soul exhales before the pressure starts to pile. When you rush your morning, you often rush past peace. You trade communion for control. You trade presence for productivity. And you wonder why your spirit feels scattered by noon. But oh, what a difference when you start slow. What a difference when you rise not just out of bed, but into awareness. Light a candle, open the Word, sit in silence, even if it's just 5 minutes. 5 minutes of stillness can shift the entire rhythm of your day. You don't need an hour-long performance. You need a moment of presence. Because when you start slow, you start surrendered. And surrender is the soil where peace grows. God is not found in the frenzy. He is not hiding in the hustle. He waits in the margins. He waits in the pause between breaths. He waits in the quiet between thoughts. That is why slow mornings matter. They are more than routines. They are recalibrations. They remind your heart that before the world asks for anything from you, God has already given you everything in Him. The slow morning says, I am not my schedule. I am not my to-do list. I am not my productivity. I am God's beloved, and this day will be shaped by that truth. There is strength in that kind of slow. Not the strength that comes from striving, but the strength that comes from knowing who you are, knowing whose you are, knowing that the same God who watched over you while you slept will walk with you through whatever today brings. So don't wake up chasing. Wake up the God who waits for you. There is something unspeakably beautiful about a God who waits for you. He is not like man, impatient, irritated, easily distracted. He is not pacing the heavens, tapping his foot, wondering why you've taken so long to notice him. No, beloved, God waits. He waits with the tenderness of a father watching his child wake up slowly, not rushing, not pushing, just smiling as breath fills your lungs once again. He waits like the sunrise, constant, certain, faithful. He doesn't burst into your room demanding your attention. He invites you. He draws you. And yet, how often do we miss him? We wake up and reach for the phone. We check the news before we check our hearts. We scroll through other people's lives before speaking to the giver of our own. We sip coffee before sipping from the well that never runs dry. And he waits. He waits through your hurry, through your noise, through your attempts to outrun your own emptiness. But child, hear this. You don't have to keep him waiting. He is not asking for perfect words or polished prayers. He's not impressed by lofty language or long-winded devotion. He's after one thing: your heart. Not your performance, not your productivity, not your persona, your real, tired, unfiltered heart. He wants the version of you that rolls out of bed unsure and unsteady, the one with unanswered questions and yesterday's pain, the one who isn't sure what to say but comes anyway, because the moment you turn your attention toward him, he is there, not arriving, not approaching, there. He's always been there. It's just that now you've noticed. And oh, the miracle of being noticed by God is only surpassed by the miracle of noticing him. See, the God who waits for you is not waiting because he's needy. He's waiting because he's nurturing. He knows that love cannot be forced, only received. He knows that if you'll give him the first of your day, he'll give you the strength for the rest of it. So start slow, start honest, start small. Whisper his name. Let your first breath be a prayer. Let your first thought be directed heavenward. He's not asking for hours you don't have. He's asking for the offering of awareness, the tithe of your attention. He wants you to know what David knew. O God, early will I seek thee. Not because God hides at night, but because the morning reveals what distraction tries to disguise. He is near. And when you meet him in the morning, you're not just checking in, you're aligned. Because the one who holds time in his hands will always make time for you. And if you'll sit still long enough, you'll realize something sacred. He's been there all along, waiting, with joy, with mercy, with arms open wide, and whisper on his lips, "Welcome back. I've missed you." What happens when you hear him? Something changes. No, everything changes when you hear the voice of God. Not just with your ears, but with your spirit. When his words find their way past your intellect and into your identity. When they bypass your doubts and strike the deepest chord in your soul. Oh, child, there is no sound like the whisper of God. It doesn't shout, it shifts. It doesn't demand, it draws. It doesn't overwhelm, it awakens. And once you've heard him, truly heard him, you can't unhear him. His voice becomes your compass in chaos. His truth becomes louder than your fear. His promises begin to wrap around your soul like armor. You walk different when you've heard from heaven. You move slower but more sure. You speak softer but with more authority. You love wider because you've been loved deeply. The voice of God doesn't just inform, it transforms. It doesn't just give you answers, it gives you assurance. Because when he speaks, he doesn't just tell you what to do, he reminds you of who you are. He says, "You are mine. You are beloved. You are chosen. You are enough before you do anything." And those words, they don't evaporate with the day. They anchor you. So when the enemy whispers, "You're failing," you remember God said, "You're growing." When fear says, "You're alone," you recall, "I will never leave you." When shame tries to creep in and rehearse your past, you say, I've been redeemed. He calls me by my name, not by my mistake. That's the power of hearing Him. And it doesn't take a burning bush. It doesn't require an angel choir. It can happen in the mundane, in the clink of your coffee mug, in the scripture that suddenly feels alive, in the moment your heart quiets just enough to hear His breath, because He speaks in ways tailored to you, to your story, to your struggle, to your need. And when you've heard Him, you become more than just inspired. You become anchored. You don't chase every opinion. You don't run after every trend. You don't panic at every storm. Because you've heard the one who speaks peace to the waves. And when He says go, you go. When He says wait, you wait. When He says trust me, you trust. Even when the path is hidden. And it doesn't make life perfect. It doesn't silence every trouble. But it puts you in alignment with divine purpose. The morning you become new. There will come a morning, maybe it's today, maybe it's the next time you rise early, heavy with questions, yet hungry for God, when everything shifts. A morning not marked by routine, but by renewal. A morning where the sun rises in you, where the light doesn't just touch the sky, but ignites your soul. That, beloved, is the morning you become new. Not because your circumstances changed overnight, not because all your problems vanished while you slept, but because something in you awakened. Something ancient, something holy, something eternal. You stepped into divine rhythm. You entered the sanctuary of dawn. And there, God met you not just with mercy, but with transformation. Scripture says, His mercies are new every morning. Not recycled, not leftovers from yesterday, new. Each sunrise is heaven's way of saying, let's start again. And oh, how generous is that grace. You don't have to carry yesterday's weight into today's light. You don't have to drag guilt across the threshold of a new morning. For in Christ, the dawn is always a doorway. You walk in weary, but you walk out whole. You enter unsure, but you leave unshaken. You come with ashes, and He trades them for beauty. Yes, even before breakfast. That's what happens when you truly meet Him in the morning. You remember again that you are not who the world says you are. You are not your mistakes. You are not your weakness. You are not your performance. You are His. And when that truth sinks deep, you begin to speak differently. You begin to love differently. You begin to live, not driven by fear, but drawn by love. That's the kind of morning that doesn't end at noon. It carries you. It breathes through your conversations. It glows in your eyes. It softens your voice. It shows up in the way you hold space for others. Because when you've been made new, you become an invitation for others to be renewed too. So don't miss the miracle of morning. Don't let the noise rob you of this holy beginning. Come just as you are. Sit, breathe, open your hands, open your heart. You don't have to strive to be made new. You just have to surrender. And in that sacred surrender, as the world yawns and stretches awake, your soul will rise, not just refreshed, but reborn. This is the morning God had in mind when He whispered, "Behold, I make all things new," and that includes you. Return to the stillness.